All right, Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rakha Kudash. Double honors to the elders and the apostles of Great Millstone, and peace and blessings to the elect. And yeah, through the Spirit, I wanted to go a little willing into this chapter. The past few days, the Spirit's been on me to go into a few of these chapters. The Second Esdras 9, Second Esdras 10, 11. And Second Esdras 12 is really pretty much a breakdown of Second Esdras 11. All right, Second Esdras, the 12th chapter, it's when the angel the angel is basically breaking down the vision that Ezra received in Second Esdras, the 11th chapter, concerning the Roman Empire, um, more specifically the 12 Caesars from Julius to Domitian. All right, so we're gonna get into it, and Lord willing, it be edifying to the elect. All right, now this is the book of Second Esdras, chapter 12, verse 1. It says, and it came to pass whilst the lion spake these words unto the eagle. Now, when you read in Second Esdras, chapter 11, it'll tell you what or who the lion is. Like, it pretty much goes into at the ending, the lion comes and it starts speaking to the eagle, which a lion represents Yahweh Shai. All right, so that's where it's continuing from. So it says, and it came to pass, whilst the lion spake these words unto the eagle, I saw, and behold, the head that remained, and the four wings appeared no more, and the two went unto it, and set themselves up to reign, and their kingdom was small and full of uproar. Right? So now the the head that remained represented Julius Caesar, that came back as Vespasian. All right, which appeared no more because after a period of time he ended up dying, and later on in the chapter it'll it'll actually go into that. It says and the four wings appeared no more, which goes into the four emperors, right? The year of the four emperors. Now the thing about this vision is the four wings. It is talking about the year of the four emperors with Galba, Otho, Vitellius, and Vespasian. But Vespasian is also one of the heads. Okay, when the first head, Julius, he came back in the reincarnation as Vespasian. So it'll talk about the head, but it'll also talk about the four wings. But Vespasian, in the four wings, he's there because he was one of the four emperors, but he is also the head. And that's the thing about these visions. When you get a vision, it doesn't, not every single detail in your vision represents exactly what something is. So there's certain parts of the vision that you may be like, wait, so what about this part? Why does it say it this way? But that's just how the Most High gave it to him. All right, so it says here, I'm gonna read verse 2 again, Second Esdras chapter 12, verse 2. And behold, the head that remained, and the four wings appeared no more, and the two went onto it. Okay, so you had the the year of the four emperors with Galba, Otho, Vitellius, and Vespasian, but then you had the head and the two that remained, which the head and the two was the first triumvirate, okay, which was Julius, Crassus, and Pompey, and they came back in the reincarnation as Vespasian, Titus, and Domitian. Okay, so the two, like it says here, the two that went on to it were Titus and Domitian. It says, and set themselves up to reign, and their kingdom was small and full of uproar. Verse 3, and I saw, and behold, they appeared no more, and the whole body of the eagle was burnt, and so that the earth was in great fear. Then awaked I out of the trouble and trance of my mind, and from the great fear, and said unto my spirit, Lo, this hast thou done unto me, in that thou searchest out the ways of the highest. Lo, yet am I weary in my mind, and very weak in my spirit, and little strength is there in me, for the great fear wherewith I was affrighted this night. Because the visions that they received, they were terrifying, because you don't understand what it means. And some visions are very intense, you know? So verse 6, it says, therefore will I beseech the highest that he will comfort me unto the end. And I said, Lord, that bearest rule, if I have found grace before thy sight, and if I am justified with thee before many others, and if my prayer indeed be come up before thy face, comfort me then, and shew me thy servant the interpretation and plain difference of this fearful vision, that thou mayest perfectly comfort my soul. For thou hast judged me worthy to shew me the last times. And these last times that it's talking about is the times of that period where the 12 Caesars took place. Okay. Verse 9, it says, for thou hast, verse 10, and he said unto me, this is the interpretation of the vision. See, so what we're about to read is basically the breakdown of the previous chapter. The eagle whom thou sawest come up from the sea is the kingdom which was seen in the vision of thy brother Daniel. So we know that 2nd Esdras 11, that eagle is one of the kingdoms that Daniel saw. Okay. It says, as a matter of fact, and that's in, hold on a second. That's in the book of Daniel, chapter 7. And the kingdom that is referring to is the fourth kingdom, all right, which is Rome. But it was told or showed to Daniel as a beast with iron teeth. All right, Daniel chapter 7, verse let me see. Yeah, verse 7. It says, and after this I saw in the night visions, and behold, a fourth beast, dreadful and terrible and strong exceedingly, and it had great iron teeth, and it devoured and brake in pieces, and stamped the residue with the feet of it. And it was diverse from all the beasts that were before it, and it had 10 horns. So that's the beast here that is basically being showed to Ezra, but in the form of an eagle this time. All right, cool. So let's keep going. 2nd Ezra chapter 12, verse 11 again. It says, the eagle whom thou sawest come up from the sea is the kingdom which was seen in the vision of thy brother Daniel. Because Daniel was around the same time, all right, the same time period as Ezra. Daniel was also in the Babylonian captivity. It says here, but it was not expounded unto him. Therefore now I declare it unto thee. Behold, the days will come that there shall rise up a kingdom upon earth, and it shall be feared above all the kingdoms that were before it. All right, which is the Roman Empire. It says, in the same time shall 12 kings reign one after another. That's why in the 11th chapter, it mentions them as the 12 feathers. And it says that they were to watch not all at once, but watch everyone in his place, right? Watch by course, because they were going to reign one after another. Verse 15, whereof the second shall begin to reign. So the second king, which was Augustus, all right, after Julius Caesar was Augustus, and shall have more time than any of the 12. And that's even more proof that it's Augustus, because when you look it up, I believe he reigned for 41 years. So he reigned longer than any of the other 12 Caesars. It says here, verse 16, and this do the 12 wings signify which thou sawest. So when you read 2nd Esdras 11, the 12 feathers, the 12, feathered wings, the 12 feathers, that represents the 12 Caesars from Julius to Domitian. Verse 17, and as for the voice which thou heardest speak, that thou sawest not go out from the heads, but from the midst of the body thereof, this is the interpretation. That after the time of that kingdom there shall arise great strivings, and it shall stand in peril of falling. Nevertheless, it shall not it shall not then fall, but shall be restored again to his beginning. Yeah, because there was a period in time when you had a lot of civil wars and strivings. The fact that you have something called a year of four emperors is an example of that. And there were a lot of times where Rome was in danger of falling because of the civil wars and the uprisings and then this person killing this person and trying to take over. But it didn't fall at that time. Okay, and then what ended up happening was the Mosai set up the Flavian dynasty, and then it was after Vespasian ruled and died, and then Titus ruled and died, and then Domitian ruled and died. So it says here, verse 19, and whereas thou sawest the 8 small under feathers sticking to her wings, this is the interpretation. Because remember, we read, see if I can find it. Okay, that's, I don't see the number here, but you had contrary feathers, right? When we read in 2nd Esdras 11, you had contrary feathers, which were going into those Caesars who then rule for like a large, significant period of time, per se. So it says, all right, let's see. All right, Slocky, I think we might be good now. My phone started overheating, so you know things started acting up, trying to see where's a good place to place this camera now. Maybe I could flip this thing. All right, looks like we're just gonna have to hold it and just go from there. So it's lucky about that. Phone started overheating. It is what it is. But yeah, let me keep going anyway. Right. So I think we were on verse. Yeah, we were on verse 21, right? Dealing with the eight kings whose time shall be but small and their years swift. So verse 21 it says, and 2 of them shall perish, the middle time approaching, 4 shall be kept until their end begin to approach, but 2 shall be kept unto the end. Yeah, because you got 4, which are going to be in the middle, right? They're going to be kept until their end approach. You have 2 that are going to be kept unto the end, and you have 2 that are going to perish the middle time approaching. Now, the middle time approaching, you had 6, Slaki, you had 12 Caesars. So the middle time would be you have the first 6, and then you have the second 6. The first 6 was from Julius, Augustus, Tiberius, Caligula, Claudius, and Nero. And then you had Galba also, which continued the second 6, right? So here we have 8 of them. And we know that it starts off with verse 21, 2 of them shall perish the middle time approaching. So that would have to be the 2 before Otho, which is Claudius and Nero. All right, because Nero being the 6th emperor, that was the middle time. All right, so you had Claudius and then Nero, which they perished, and then it says 4 shall be kept until their end begin to approach, which is going into the 4 emperors during the year of the 4 emperors, which is Galba, Otho, Vitellius, and Vespasian. And then it says here, but 2 shall be kept unto the end, which were the last 2, which were Titus and Domitian. All right, and it says here, verse 22, and whereas thou sawest 3 heads resting, this is the interpretation. In the last days shall the Most High raise up 3 kingdoms and renew many things therein, and they shall have the dominion of the earth. Now, what this is talking about is it mentions the heads that were resting. And the heads that were resting go back to the first triumvirate. When you read 2nd Esdras, the 11th chapter, it starts off telling you about the heads. Okay, so the first triumvirate, which was Julius Caesar, Crassus, and Pompey, all right, they died. That was when they rested. And then they came back again as the Flavian dynasty. Now in 2nd Esdras 12, it says here, verse 23, in the last days the Most High shall raise up 3 kingdoms. 3 kingdoms being the reign of the 3 kings, which was Vespasian, Titus, and Domitian. All right, it's not like a whole new three kingdoms. No, it's really just the time period where each member of the Flavian dynasty reigned. And it says the last days is not talking about this time last days. It's talking about the beginning of the last days, which was back then when Yahweh Shai, around the time of Yahweh Shai. And that's around the time when the Flavian dynasty came up, into power, because who was behind the siege of Jerusalem? Nero had sent Vespasian to go and basically quiet down Jake because Jake started wilding out. And Vespasian got over there. Nero died. Vespasian left his son Titus in charge. Titus continued the siege. Vespasian came down to Egypt and then came to Rome and was crowned emperor. So around that time, that was the last days. How do we know that? Um, let's go real quick to the book of Hebrews. Slakia. All right. Yeah, this is the book of Hebrews, chapter 1. Um, Verse 1, it says, God, who at sundry times and in divers manners spake in time past unto the fathers by the prophets, hath in these last days spoken unto us by his Son. So, who wrote this? The Apostle Paul. So, he said in these last days, around what time was Paul living? He was living around that time period, around 2,000 years ago. It says, whom he hath appointed heir of all things, by whom also he made the worlds. So when did the last days begin? The last days began when Yahweh, around the time of Yahweh Shai, when he was on the scene. So going back to 2nd Esdras 12, it's saying here the interpretation of the three heads that rested is that verse 23, in the last days, which is talking about that time during the time of Yahweh Shai, the time of the Flavian dynasty, all right, the time of the siege of Jerusalem, in the or look at that, in his last days, right, which is even better, because that's during the last. If you look at it in terms of the eagle, the Flavian dynasty was really the last days for the 12 Caesars, because they were going to be the ending of that eagle's body. But anyway, it says here, um, in his last days shall the Most High raise up three kingdoms, which was Vespasian's reign, Titus's reign, and Domitian's reign. It says, and renew many things therein, and they shall have the dominion of the earth, and of those that dwell therein with much oppression. And it tells you that in 2nd Esdras 11 as well. When Vespasian came into power, it says, can I find it? Let's see. Here we go. Second Esdras 11 and 31. It says, and behold, the head was turned with them that were with it, and did eat up the two feathers under the wing that would have reigned. But this head put the whole earth in fear. And this is talking about Vespasian, and bear rule in it over all those that dwelt upon the earth with much oppression. And it had the governance of the world more than all the wings that had been. Right? So when you come back to 2nd Ezra chapter 12, it's telling you here, 12 verse 24, and of those that dwell therein with much oppression, because that's how the head was going to rule. So going on, it says above all those that were before them, therefore they are called the heads of the eagle. For this, for these are they that shall accomplish his wickedness, and that shall finish his last end. So the Flavian dynasty were going to be the completeness of the eagle's body. They were going to usher in the end of the eagle's body, because they were going to be the last Caesars to reign among the 12. It says, verse 26, and whereas thou sawest that the great head appeared no more, it signifieth that one of them shall die upon his bed, and yet with pain. And that was Vespasian. Okay, and we read yesterday, we went into the secular history on what happened. He actually got diarrhea, severe diarrhea, and he ended up dying. He I think he said something along the lines of, not being, it's not fit for a king to, like, die laying down or whatever, or a king should die standing or something. And he said One other thing he said was, "Oh dear, I fear I'm becoming a god," or something like that. And then as he struggled to get up off of his bed, he ended up dying. So as it says, he died with pain because that bowel issue that he had is a painful thing. And it says, and I mean, if it's enough to kill you, or hell yeah, it's a painful thing. So it says, and yet with pain, verse 27. I gotta hurry up because my phone is overheating now. Shit. So it says, verse 27, for the two that remain shall be slain with the sword. The two that remained were Titus and Domitian. For the sword of the one shall devour the other, but at the last shall he fall through the sword himself. So the two that remained were Titus and Domitian. They were brothers. Both of them were sons of Vespasian. Titus ruled first, followed by Domitian. Now, according to different historians and different sources, they say that Domitian plotted against Titus. Titus knew, but Titus didn't take action against it. Eventually, Domitian ended up setting up Titus, either poisoning him or just leaving him to die. But either way, Domitian was behind Titus's death. So as you can see, it says, "For the sword of one shall devour the other," which was Domitian ended up being the cause of his brother Titus's death. It says, "But at the last shall he fall through the sword himself." And Domitian, if I remember correctly, he died through being assassinated. They said that his assassin, came up and tried to get him, and he fought. He fought back, but he ended up getting got at the end. Verse 29. And whereas thou sawest two feathers under the wings passing over the head that is on the right side, it signifieth that these are they whom the highest hath kept unto their end. This is the small kingdom and full of trouble as thou sawest. So those two feathers under the wings passing over the head was talking about Domitian, Titus and Domitian, because they are the ones whom the highest kept onto their end. They were the last two of the 12 Caesars. All right. So going on verse 31. And the lion whom thou sawest rising up out of the wood, and roaring and speaking unto the eagle, and rebuking her for her unrighteousness, with all the words which thou hast heard. This is the anointed, which the highest hath kept for them and for their wickedness unto the end. So who's the anointed? Yahushua. It says here, that's why he's called Hamashiach, the anointed. It says, he shall reprove them and shall upbraid them with their cruelty. For he shall set them before him alive in judgment and shall rebuke them and correct them. Yeah, because they're going to ultimately get judged for their wicked action. In Second Esdras 11, it tells you how they where is it at? They destroyed the walls of the meek, and they ruled with much oppression. Where is it at? Yeah, somewhere in Second Esdras 11, it tells you about that, which is talking about the things they did to us, all right, as Israel. So they're gonna get judged for that. So going on, it says, verse 34, it says, for the rest, for the rest of my people shall he deliver with mercy those that have been preserved upon my borders, and he shall make them joyful until the coming of the day of judgment, whereof I have spoken unto thee from the beginning. So, and that's ultimately the Lord's elect, okay? Because they're the ones that are going to be joyful until the coming of the day of judgment, which is ultimately going to be when Yahushua comes back. It says here, this is the dream that thou sawest, and these are the interpretations. Thou only hast been meet to know the secret of the highest. Therefore, write all these things that thou hast seen in a book, and hide them, and teach them to the wise of the people, whose ears thou knowest may comprehend and keep these words. Or Slakia, keep these secrets. Yeah, and that shows you that not everybody's on the same level. You have, because here it is, Ezra, when you read Second Ezra, the 10th chapter, it even tells you that he is The scriptures say that he's blessed above many others, and there are only few that are like him. So not everybody is on the same level. But going on, it says that verse 39, but wait thou here thyself yet 7 days more, that it may be shewed thee whatsoever it pleaseth the highest to declare unto thee. And with that he went his way. So Ezra was really loved of the Lord. The Lord revealed to Ezra a whole lot of visions, you know, gave him a whole lot of revelations and gave him a whole lot of visions. It says, and it came to pass when all the people saw that the 7 days were past, and I not come again into the city, they gathered them all together, because Ezra was basically in isolation when he was receiving these visions. He was in isolation. So when the people saw that he hadn't come back, they pretty much got stressed. So it says here, they gathered them all together from the least unto the greatest, and came unto me and said, because Ezra was a priest, and I believe he was also of the line, he came from the line of Aaron. So it says, and said, and he was a prophet. What have we offended thee? And what evil have we done against thee, that thou forsakest us and sittest here in this place? Because basically they didn't have that direction. Like they relied upon him as a man of the Most High, as a priest, as a prophet, to basically guide them and lead them in the right, in the right path, give them that direction. So it says, going on, verse 42, for of all the prophets, thou only art left us as a cluster of the vintage, and as a candle in a dark place, and as a haven or ship preserved from the tempest. And it goes to show you that the prophets are very important, because prophets are not expendable. You can't just go and just, all right, I'm gonna swap. I want to swap this prophet out for another one. You don't just raise up. You don't raise prophets like you do priests, or like you do kings. You can't groom somebody that's not a prophet to be a prophet. There's only a set amount of prophets that were, in essence, created. Like the spirits of the prophets are subject to the prophets. So there's a set amount of spirits that were created to be prophets, and they keep coming back, doing the same thing. So if there's a generation where the Lord says, I'm not sending a spirit of a prophet down here, the people are going to be without a prophet. You can't just, okay, I'm gonna teach you the laws and teach you this, and then, like how you could do with a priest, and teach them the things and how they can become a scribe, or a doctor in the law. That's not how it works with a prophet. You have to have the spirit of a prophet to be a prophet. If not, then that's it. So prophets are very special. Okay, the prophets of Yahweh Bashem Yahushai are no ordinary men. That's the title right there. So it says, verse 43, are not are not the evils which are come to us sufficient? So they're basically saying, look at all the things that are going on, and here it is, we ain't got no other prophets here but you like the last one we found, that we have hope in, and you just gonna abandon us? Like, haven't we suffered enough? It says, verse 44, if thou shalt forsake us, how much better had it been for us if we also had been burned in the midst of Sion? Yeah, when the Babylonians came and destroyed the temple, and destroyed Jerusalem and burnt the temple, we might as well have just been burnt along with it if you forsake us. It says, for we are not better than they that died there, and they wept with a loud voice. Then answered I them and said, be of good comfort, O Israel, and be not heavy, thou house of Jacob. For the highest hath you in remembrance, and the mighty hath not forgotten you in temptation. Yeah, because it would have been an easier thing for the Lord to just say, you know what, I'm just done with y'all, with all the wickedness that you've done. But the Most High is not like that. He is loyal. All right. He made a promise to our forefathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Verse 48, as for me, I have not forsaken you, neither am I departed from you, but am come into this place to pray for the desolation of Sion, and that I might seek mercy for the low estate of your sanctuary. And now Go your way home, every man, and after these days will I come unto you. So the people went their way into the city, like as I commanded them. But I remained still in the field 7 days, as the angel commanded me, and did eat only in those days of the flowers of the field, and had my meat of the herbs. And that was pretty much it. So in essence, Second Ezra chapter 11 and Second Ezra chapter 12, they go together. All right, it's like, they go together. Second Ezra 11 is a vision that was given to Ezra, and Second Ezra 12 is where the angel basically breaks down the vision to him. All right, and once you understand that it's dealing with the 12 Caesars of Rome from Julius to Domitian, if you read the secular history, you'll be able to understand it. Because when it mentions the one that reigned longer than all the others, that had a good time, if you do the research, you'll find out, well, that can only fit Augustus. If we're dealing with these 12, that would only make sense to fit Augustus, right? If it talks about two little feathers at the end, it would only make sense that that would be Titus and Domitian, because they were the last two Caesars of the 12. So when understanding that Second Esdras 11 and 12 is really dealing with that time of Rome, you'll be good. And the angel tells you that in the 12th chapter, that this is the kingdom, right? One of the kingdoms that was shown to your brother Daniel, but it wasn't expounded onto him. See, Daniel didn't get the details of the Roman Empire like Ezra did, and that's where you have it here in Second Esdras, the 12th chapter and the 11th chapter. All right. So yeah, that was pretty much it. Lord willing, that was edifying to the elect. Salaki about the disruptions, the phone getting hot and all of that. But Lord willing, it was still edifying to the elect. In closing, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rakak Wadash. Until next time, Shalom.